So, good evening, everybody. What a lovely fall evening we have. This is really perfect weather. Clouds covered up the sun for Carrie so that she can get a better shot of the speakers. Welcome to one of my very favorite places in the whole world. For those of you who haven't been here before, Wells Overlook has been in Douglas County for several decades now. I should have written down the year, but sometime in the 70s, I believe, is when the park opened. And it's been a favorite place of mine to visit my entire life. So one of my very best friends growing up here, she lived just on the private road to the west of this, and so we would attempt to ride our bikes up here and usually get around the first curve and then just begrudgingly push up to the end and collapse somewhere up here before making our way to the top of the tower. So I have lots of memories in this place. It's where we taught ourselves to drive when her parents were away for the weekend. It's where my partner and I recently came to test drive some cars and figure out the turning radius on the curves coming up the hill. It's just, I was up here earlier this week. There was somebody reading a book in a hammock facing that westward view. There was somebody in one of these new parking spots polishing his truck very lovingly on a beautiful fall day. And there were folks with their dog down at the new pavilion. So I just think that this place has so much to offer, and I'm really glad that it's here. I'm really glad that I get to be here this evening and speak with you all and introduce some of the people that are responsible for why we're here this evening. Excuse me, I forgot my water. As we begin our celebration, I do want to first acknowledge the land that we're occupying here now. And I want to specifically honor the ancestry of countless indigenous peoples who lived here for thousands of years and many more generations than any of us here, than most of us here, I shall say, than before white European settlers like my ancestors colonized these beautiful valleys for ourselves. So I just want to honor that we are gathered on the stolen lands of tribes such as the Kaw, the Kanza, the Kickapoo, the Pawnee, the Osage, and other entire nations of native peoples who have roots that are much deeper in this land and that must be honored and acknowledged, especially when we gather like this to celebrate the history and heritage of a place. And that leads me to want to highlight one of my favorite things about this new project that we're here to celebrate, and that's the panels that are at the pavilion that's now accessible. And those panels give a really good overview of some highlights in the context of our geography and that view that you have about Douglas County history and its residents past and present. So I'm really excited about all the intentional details and plans that went into the creation of that pavilion and of making this entire park more accessible for both Douglas County residents and passersby alike. Thank you everyone here that contributed to that project. I'm really grateful, and I feel lucky that I get to be a part of it because I know it was kind of a long time in the making. It was slowed down by COVID, like many things in our lives in the past year and a half. So this is a bit of a delayed event, but that means I get to be a part of it, so I'm selfishly excited for that. And we have a beautiful evening for it. So lastly, I do want to especially thank the Lastman family for their land donation and their ongoing commitment to crucial preservation of natural open space. So thank you for that gift. Thanks for joining us.
Hi everybody, I'm Chad Boyd. I'm the Director of Public Works, and I have the honor of representing the team that pulled this project together. And there were many of us. That's one of the things that's amazing about this project is what a broad team it is, and all of the local resources that we drew upon, and it's really the kind of thing that you could only do in a place like Lawrence and Douglas County, so it's been amazing to be a part of. Everybody congregated behind here at the structure that's under construction, which was amazing to see. It's already drawing people to it. That was great. This is the Polaris Pavilion, which is going to be completed soon, and it's the picnic shelter. And then when we're done here, we'll go north to the Passerine Pavilion, which is the new overlook structure, and that's where we'll do a ribbon cutting. But after everything is done, both are open to enjoy and mill around and see the amazing work that's been done. I want to recognize Ken Lastman. Commissioner Reed mentioned the Lastman family, and Ken is back here in the center. And Ken was integral in pulling this project together, getting it initiated up off the ground. Another person I want to recognize is Keith Browning, the former Director of Public Works. The two of them are really the ones that saw the potential to bring many, many groups together and make this happen the way that it did, and that's an amazing thing. We also have Craig Weinog here, and Craig has a long history with the county and also was around to see this project start, and many, many more things about this park we owe thanks to Craig for, so it's great to see Craig here. So the structures, as you probably know, were designed and constructed by Dirtworks Studio with the University of Kansas, and it's been really an amazing thing for us to be able to partner with Dirtworks Studio. And Chad Krause in particular, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, and it was Chad's willingness to take these projects on and make them part of his curriculum, teach his students about the design process, but really at the end of the day, Chad was the one who put in the most effort, the most hours. He was a construction manager. He made this actually come together, and I think we owe Chad the greatest thanks and gratitude for making this happen and making it so amazing. So obviously the students brought a lot of energy and amazing designs, but Chad was the one that steered them and is still out here on a daily basis making this work. So thank you, Chad, for that. These are both ADA accessible projects, and that's something if you look at where the tower is and it's up a steep slope with a lot of stairs, there are a lot of folks that weren't able to use this park to its fullest in the past, and that's what's amazing now is that we've got these diverse points of interest within this park. It's a huge improvement, and folks are able to make use of the picnic shelter and then see the amazing views, obviously. So it's great to have that addition in the park. I also want to recognize the National Park Service. We got a $40,000 grant from the National Park Service for this project, and you know that's a big chunk of change for materials. I should mention that everything that Dirtworks did was at no cost to the county. So any money that went into this project, at the end of the day, we got much, much more out of that. Additional funding was provided by our capital improvement program through our commissioners. So thank you, commissioners, for supporting the project. And then also Public Works crews, our crews that worked on the project. So manpower, equipment, and things that we borrowed them from other projects to do. And it was really amazing to see, you know, the bridge crew building the foundations for the structure, and then have the students joining them in raising the columns, and to see the parks crew clearing the site and then seeding the native grass, and bringing, you know, those folks that normally work on road and bridge projects and putting them with students in the School of Architecture. It's really kind of a mirror of that landscape that we see. It's the diversity of Douglas County at work, and it's an amazing thing to see. So I mentioned the parks crew, the bridge crew. We also had other crews out here, the asphalt crew, the striping crew for our new spaces. We even had a fleet crew person out here to help raise columns with the trucks. So it was truly a broad project for Public Works, and a lot of folks got involved. And I want to thank Doug Stevens over here. Doug is our operations manager who leads those crews, and if something needed to be done, we called Doug, and Doug always makes sure it gets done. So thank you, Doug. Also want to mention the Lawrence Master Gardeners. They volunteered their expertise and planted the small garden at the base of the structure with native plants. Again, a great local resource, and they did an amazing job. And then we should mention HMC Performance Coatings donated all of the powder coating paint for the steel. So thank you to them for that. We used local steel fabricators, Stiebel Fabrication, for all of the steel work. We used some local suppliers for wood materials. So truly it is a local project. So again, a very diverse team, and thanks to Keith and Ken for pulling that together. And with that, I want to turn it over to Chad Krause and his students to tell you about the design process.
All right, well, thank you all for coming. It's a beautiful evening. Thank you for joining us for this ribbon cutting. acknowledge this unexpected journey that we experienced throughout this project. Back in the spring of 2020, when we first started, I assembled a group of passionate architecture students who were prepared to build the 10th Dortworks Studio project out here. And of course, as you all know, we had no idea how dramatic the world was about to change with the pandemic. And like many things that derailed our progress, as we were finalizing the design for the Passerine Pavilion, we, like many universities, KU went completely online and transformed to a virtual campus. And one of the most significant principles of my studio, the Dortworks Studio, is embodied in the phrase, hands-on, minds-on. And that was suddenly and completely disrupted. Yet, despite these discouraging change of plans, the students persevered. Time and time again, they were met with adversity and they found ways to overcome it. In fall of 2020, a new group of students joined the original group, and we continue to push forward to build the pavilion, along with valuable contributions from Douglas County Public Works and many others that Chad and others have already named. The Dortworks Studio worked in multiple teams, being as strategic as we could to work during a pandemic. And of course, we started to design the structure that you see behind us as well, which is nearing completion. Despite our resolve, the pandemic absolutely exacerbated some of the challenges that already exist with the design-build project. But despite all those challenges, the community contributed to the project in so many ways. I want to thank several people that have already been thanked, but Ken Lastman, who was a champion of this project from the very beginning, before we were ever involved, and who was a guiding light for us in every step of the way. I want to thank Jan Schuper-Eric, who helped with the wayside panels and the research that was needed to understand how important the surrounding landscape was for our heritage. Ray Petty, who contributed a very important and unique perspective to help us understand how important it was to provide universal accessibility. The master gardeners who gave us their wisdom and advice when it came to plantings and thinking about the prairie landscape. I'd also like to acknowledge the generosity of HMC Performance Coating and XL Tube, who donated a lot of the steel for the project. Douglas County Public Works was instrumental in all kinds of parts of the project. We couldn't have done it without them, of course. They were our client, but they were also partners in the project. Finally, I would like to acknowledge my students, who, for those of you who are here today, you should raise your hands so you can be acknowledged. Absolutely incredible work. You know, they dedicated their time, energies, ingenuity, and talents to bring their vision of the Passerine Pavilion into fruition. And hopefully in a few moments, we can head over there and we can see the pavilion with its outstretched wings sort of leaping off the hillside, providing visitors of all kinds, regardless of mobility or age or regardless of anything. All visitors can experience and behold the beauty of the Wakarusa River Valley around us. So thank you all so much for everything you've done. I'd also like to just briefly announce that the Passerine Pavilion was recently selected as an AIA Kansas Student Excellence in Design Award winner. So congratulations again for all those who made this possible. And now I'd like to introduce two of the members of the studio who can say a few words on behalf of the rest of the students. So we've got Aaron Mahalicek and Kim Gordon who are going to speak, and I think Aaron's going to start us off first. So welcome, Aaron.
Wow, this is a bigger crowd than I was expecting. Thank you all for coming out here. As anybody who was involved in this project can probably tell you, it was quite the interesting experience getting to the finish line here. But despite the unfortunate circumstances surrounding the delays, I've got to say it really was an amazing learning experience. And Dirtworks Studio has a history of putting together some really incredible projects, and I was kind of banking on that opportunity when I chose Chad's studio. I knew that I wanted to be involved in a project that would give me the opportunity to be involved in a project that would have a positive impact on the Lawrence community. And this project was really about the best case scenario that I could have asked for, given that it's centered around accessibility and equal opportunity for everyone. So as the semester was getting started, we all knew that it was going to be really challenging to achieve the goals that we set for ourselves. But every single person in the studio, and I mean this sincerely, was equally ready to step up and put in the hours needed to make it happen. So we only had a semester to go through the entire design process and put together a concept, a set of construction documents, and get all the way through a built project, which is very fast. We kind of got started, and those first couple weeks we were coming up with sketches, ideas, and whatnot, and a lot of the ideas that we were coming up with were kind of in contention with each other. But I remember there was one night where a group of us went to the Lawrence Public Library, and we just kind of sat down there, and again we had our sketchbooks out and open, and everybody was coming up with ideas and whatnot, and it was there that we kind of had this light bulb moment on how to really make the whole design click and take everybody's feedback into the design and make it what it is today. So after we got past that point, it was really go mode in terms of putting together a solid design and putting together a set of construction documents. Our goal was to have construction documents submitted by spring break, which we achieved. But it was also around that time that we were hearing more and more talks of COVID-19 and rumors of the university going fully online, and which ultimately did end up happening. And as I'm sure you can all figure out, you can't do construction over a Zoom call, so or a Teams call for that matter. But that kind of put us in a difficult place. The question was, we have half a semester left now. How do we spend the rest of the semester in a way that is both fulfilling and educational? And Chad had the wonderful idea of documenting the process by which we got to this design in a book. And I think one of the ideas behind that was that, this was a design build studio, and even if we weren't able to get all the way through construction, at the end of it, we would still have a physical copy of something that we could hold and be proud of. So at that point, we kind of split up into groups, and we started doing research, compiling images, renders, plans, sections, all of the stuff that we'd produced over the semester into this book. And the initial version of the book had 6 chapters, where we went over the history of the area, we went over the history of Dirtworks itself, the studio, we went over the concept design and kind of what went into that, and then we went over the final design itself. And then we also put together a series of illustrated images of the Passerine coming together, which is really fun to put together and to look at. But that last chapter we left blank because we knew throughout this whole time that there was still a possibility that we would be able to come back in at the end and do construction of the project and later fill that chapter in with actual images. So to tell you about that second half of the semester, I believe Kim is going to speak.
Hi everyone, my name is Kim Gordon, and I just want to start off by saying a big thank you to everyone who could make it out tonight. It really means a lot to everyone who was involved in the Passerine. Shifting back into in-person classes in the fall of 2020 was a challenging transition, let me tell you. We were used to working in a group of 16 all in person, and instead we transitioned into a group of 4 in the morning and a group of about 12 in the afternoon. Additionally, we had another group of 16 students, the Dirtworks studio, that came after us to collaborate with. And they really worked so incredibly hard to not only design the pavilion that is behind me now, Polaris, but to also help us out on site in the fall and spring semesters. Although the process was much slower than we expected with lower time on site, it was incredibly satisfying to see it finally all coming together. On top of our normal studio hours, which is quite a lot if you don't know, we met 3 times a week to push the project as far as we could. Now, there were a few obstacles along the way with COVID, material shortages, and limited time frames, but by the end of 2020, the gabion frames were installed, the deck was finished, and the roof was starting to come along. Even though there were fewer of us in the spring, we were still determined to finish the project we had started just 1 year before. With fewer people on site, everyone had more responsibilities with construction of the Passerine, whether it be tightening the cables on the railing or installing the rafters of the roof. However, no matter how much people tried to convince me it was okay and I was going to be safe, I refused to get up on the roof. Thankfully, we still had the Polaris students to help us out and push to complete the project before the end of the semester. We had all hands on deck to shingle the roof and the reclaimed street signs, as well as putting the finishing touches on the pavilion, which may have involved 3 or 4 of us carrying these massive rocks up the hill to place into the prairie garden. It meant so much to be a part of this project and to have this hands-on experience with Dirtworks Studio, and it meant even more when families would come by and say how excited they were to bring their parents or their children to come see the pavilion. Chad Krause, Douglas County, and Ken Lastman wanted to make Wells Overlook Park more accessible for everyone, and I'm so happy that we can officially share it with you all. Thank you.
So, we've got our own national park. It's kind of cool when you think about that. You know, everybody has given a lot of thanks to everybody, which makes my job a lot easier because that's all true. And, you know, I was looking around and I see a neighbor here. I want to thank the neighbors who, you know, we involved in the process too. Bob McKezick is here from Independence Inc. is another person. There was a whole team of people. I worked for Topeka Independent Living Resource Center at the time, and I was able to spend some of my time, my paid time with them here because of the pandemic, and that kind of brings up to me a little thought about time. Everybody's thinking about how things got delayed. Well, you know what? Time. This place benefited from that. It really did. You know, we had a lot of different designs that we were talking about, a road going up to the top and doing all different things that we had the time to think about and say, no, that doesn't really work. And then we wrote a grant, and the first time it came up, it was rejected because there was other fiscal limitations that the county did. That gave us another year to come back around, and guess what? Dirtworks Studio showed up during that time. That wouldn't have happened if we hadn't been put that on the back. We also had a situation with the pandemic that gave Jan Schupert and myself time to really think about what is it that we want to show, you know, in his waysides. That wouldn't have happened if we had been rushing. So there's a lot of things that I think actually worked to the benefit of this place, and so I think that that's a great thing. I mean, I think that our family wanted the people of Douglas County to be able to take the big view by, you know, beyond our family. We wanted to share that vision, and I think that that's something that we were able, my granddad was able to accomplish with the tower. And by this project, I think we've extended the big picture view to other populations of people, to everybody that can't make it up that tower, up that hill, and include them in our big picture of our future. And I think that, you know, looking at the fabric of our community that we've woven together here, I think bodes well for the past, the present, and the future. And thank you all for coming.